StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to invest in your brain. So we already talked about yesterday that this episode was coming, so you should have been expecting this. Before we get started, let me remind you of two things. First of all, my daily motivation and Monday motivation text messages. When we start sending these out again, they will be having you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day. Make sure you text me at that number that I just gave you. Did I give it to you? 305-384-6894. They can just give it to you. It is down below in the description as well. So in case you missed it, you can just get it from there. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That's the place where I do all my coaching. If you would like to work with me directly, you would like to get the focus in on your mindset, your strategy, your systems, and your accountability to make sure things get implemented fast, and implemented properly. All of that's happening at workonyourgameuniversity.com. The link to that is, again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. All you have to do is go there and you can see more about what our program's about, what we're doing, who we are helping, and how. And you can schedule a time to get on a call with us. We can talk about where you're at, where you want to go, what you feel like might be in your way. And if we feel like we can help you, we'll tell you how. Again, that link down below in the description. With all that out the way, let's get into the topic here today, which is how to invest in your brain. We talked about why, now let's talk about how to invest in your brain. Now that we have established through yesterday's class, again, the value of investing in your brain, I don't have to give you too much of a background on this one. We can just get straight into the material if you all don't mind. So let's get to it. Number one, topic today is how to invest in your brain. Number one thing you must do is be seen. Whatever you need to do to get yourself seen, you need to do it. Now, getting seen doesn't mean just getting seen by anyone and everyone. You need to get seen by the right type of people. Who are the right type of people? Those are the people with whom you would like to engage. Who are those people? That's a question that you need to answer. And if you're a member of Work on Your Game University, I will help you figure this out and get this figured out in a specific way, like a, as we say, niched down way. Some people say niche, but getting niched down into the specific type of people who, in front of whom you would like to be, so that they know about you, they know that you exist, and they know what you're offering is something that they need or want. So in our world, where you are seen, how often you are seen, with whom you are seen, and what you are seen doing, all play a role in the picture that people have in your mind. So if people see you hanging out in the ghetto, standing on the corner, that's one impression. But if they see you in the lobby of some luxurious hotel hanging with a bunch of other important looking people, that's a completely different impression they would get of you. You are the same person, but where they saw you plays a role in how the idea they have of you. Everybody understand that? How often people see you. If somebody sees you every day, that can breed more familiarity. Like I've lived in high-rise buildings for damn near 20 years. And one thing that I've noticed is that when I first see a person, the first couple times I see them, they may be kind of wary to the point that they don't even say hello. But once someone starts to see me on a daily basis, they get a lot more comfortable, a lot more friendly, and we may eventually even get to know each other, even though we've seen each other for the last 6 months but never talked. Because the familiarity, how often they see me, breeds a little bit more familiarity. There is a benefit at the same time, a counterpoint to not being seen that often, so that when you do show up, it's like a surprise. Oh, wow, this person's here. Makes the situation feel a little bit more special because you're not often in that place. Who people see you around. The law of association says what? You become the average of the people you spend the most time with. I talked about that in episode 1880. Who are you seen around? If you're hanging around a bunch of people who have a reputation of being lowlifes and doing nothing, and you're hanging with them, well, what are people going to think about you? All right, those are your friends? Okay. Now you're hanging around a bunch of high-level people who are known as movers and shakers and people who make things happen and are known for being highly successful, and you're hanging with them. Well, what does that say about you? All right, the law of association matters a lot, and people are noticing these associations, whether they say something or not, and what people see you doing. This plays a role in the picture that they have of you in their mind. Again, there's a speaker. His name is Alan Weiss. I don't know if he's still in the business, but older guy. But he's in the speaking, consulting, coaching business. He likes to call it everything consulting. And one of the things that he said in one of his books that I was reading was that when he decided to go all in on his consulting business, he told his wife that anytime he traveled somewhere, he had to order a black car, like a chauffeured black car, to pick him up and drop him off wherever he was going, because he couldn't be seen uncurling himself out of a taxi looking all rumpled and disheveled. He needed to be coming up in a black car. And his wife said, "Why would you do that?" Because at the time, he didn't have a ton of money to even be making that kind of investment. And he told his wife, "The reason I have to do this is because I need to make sure that I am seen as a high level individual even before I have tangibly become a high level individual." He didn't have the checks in his bank account to say he was a high level individual, but he wanted to present himself as one so that he could get the kind of money that high level individuals receive. So he was basically becoming it before he was actually doing it, which I highly recommend. So again, what people see you doing, all right, how you show up, does that matter? Absolutely, it matters. What do people see you doing? I remember I was listening to, I think it was Dan Kennedy was talking about how he was going to meet some guy for some type of consulting business he was going to do with this guy. And when he pulls up to the guy's office, the guy is outside mowing the lawn. And Dan Kennedy started thinking to himself, like, this guy isn't even smart enough to hire somebody to mow his lawn. There's no way that I'm going to hire this guy to XYZ. I think Dan was thinking about hiring that guy rather than the guy was hiring Dan. Whatever it was, I remember the story as he framed it was, if this guy's outside mowing his lawn, he can't be that serious of a business person. A serious business person would never be out mowing their lawn. They would pass that off to somebody else because their time is worth a whole lot more in the office than it is out in the grass, bagging up grass. The whole point is, folks, people make impressions about you based on what they see you doing, not just who you are, but what they see you doing. All right, people see me all the time in my neighborhood that I live now, as of this recording. They see me outside walking with my son. They see me in a suit most of the time, outside walking with my son, and people get more familiar because they see me consistently. My son is big enough now that he walks and doesn't use a stroller. And I had this woman say to me just the other day, I have never registered the presence of this woman before in my life, but she said to me just about 2 days ago, "Hey, I've been watching your son grow up, and I see he's all walking now. It's crazy how fast they grow." I never even noticed this woman, but obviously she noticed us. The whole point is, what people see you doing matters, and it creates a picture in their mind. So you need to be strategic about how you are seen, how you are not seen, and what do people see when they see you. What are they noticing? Your website, your social media. These are all reflections of, or opportunities rather, for people to see you. All right. If someone comes to your website, they're going to see you. If somebody goes to your social media and you're actively posting, they see you. Or if they go there and you're not posting, they see that too. All of these things have an impression. So you need to, they make an impression rather. So you need to be very cognizant and intentional about what people are seeing when they see you. So this is what we call tailoring your brand image. You want to tailor your brand image and do this intentionally and purposely. And again, for most professionals and entrepreneurs, the biggest challenge for many of you who are listening to this right now is that you are unseen. People just don't see you enough. The type of people who you want to influence are not aware that you exist. All right, that's your biggest challenge. Most of you, that's your biggest challenge. Now, some people may have the challenge of you have plenty of eyeballs on you, but you're not giving off the right impression. For most people, that's not the challenge. I'd say maybe about 3% of people, that's their issue. Most of the people who I talk to, that's not the issue. It's just that you're unseen. People just are not aware that you even exist. As the old saying goes, they say all attention is good attention, or all press is good press. For most people, this is generally true because for most people, even negative press will garner more exposure than the zero press that you are getting right now, especially from your ideal audience, which is not every human. People can't have an opinion of you if they don't know that you exist. So even if people have a negative opinion of you, at least they have an opinion. At least they have thought. They have taken some time to think about you. All right. The polarization, it does matter because when you polarize people, usually everybody who's negative about you, there's another person who's positive, or 2 or 3 or 10 of them who are positive about you. Look at someone like our former president, Donald Trump, for example, as someone who has a bunch of people who have negative opinions about him, but he also has just as many who have positive opinions about him, and everyone has an opinion, period. That's the point. He's very good at generating attention. Now, he does it on a expert level. You don't have to be as good as him at generating attention, but you need to be good, period. All right. If you have haters, you are guaranteed to have fans. That one I know for sure, for the most part. Even without the hate, just being visible on its own is very valuable. Because when I first came out online, for example, I was very visible because I was putting out more content in my genre, which was basketball players trying to get better at basketball. I was putting out more content than everybody else put together for the first 5, 6, 7 years that I was online, I had more content out than all the other people out there combined. So even though the production value of my content was average at best, because I am not a producer, not that kind of producer, I'm definitely not a video editor, never would be. The visibility of my work helped my business tremendously. I was able to advance the way that I did because of visibility, not because of the quality of, at least not the content that I was putting out. The quality of what I was explaining and teaching and my ability to play basketball were very high. But that can only be communicated through the content I was putting out. And the quality of the videos were not great. They were basically homemade videos. But because of the volume and because of the value of the material, I was able to succeed. All of this is part of your brand strategy. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to invest in your brand. Number 2, look like what you want to be seen as. Look like what you want to be seen as. In episode 2245, I talked about why I started wearing suits. And I explained that one of the reasons was people were looking at me and they were assuming that I was an athlete. They were assuming that I was a basketball player. And it's not that I resented that assumption, because I used to be an athlete and I used to be a basketball player, but I'm not one anymore. So I didn't want people to look at me and say, oh, that's the basketball player guy. Because I would answer them and say, I would see people in the elevator, for example, in my building. I would say, well, I used to be a basketball player, which would strike up a conversation. Oh, where'd you play? Who'd you play for? Should I have heard of you before? Did you play for the Heat? They would ask questions like that. And even though I don't mind those questions, I'm still doing something right now. So if I had just stopped playing basketball and didn't do anything else, then I guess I would be okay with that classification. But I got a whole other thing going on right now where I run a business, Work on Your Game Incorporated. So I'd rather somebody ask me about that, because basketball is history. Not like I'm about to go play a game of basketball tomorrow just because somebody saw me in the elevator. But I will do business tomorrow because somebody saw me in the elevator. So when I put on the business suit, now people look at me and they assume that I run some type of business, that I'm some type of, some people think I'm some kind of corporate guy or I'm some CEO somewhere. So these are the kind of assumptions people get now because of the way I'm presenting myself. Even though I'm still the basketball player, and even when I was in the basketball gear, I was still a guy who owned the business. The impression is what I'm talking about. And today, what we're talking about is the brand. Okay, we're talking about the brand. So you want to look like how you want people to perceive you. So I mean this one literally. So if someone tells you that the president or the governor is coming to your job today, right? Or they're coming to some event that you're attending, without even seeing them, what do you think they're going to look like? If somebody tells you that the governor is coming to your office, what do you think he's going to look like? He or she is going to look like when they show up? You expect them to be in formal clothing. They're going to be well dressed, but conservatively dressed. And they're going to be looking like a dignified person. What is the vision you have of a person? What's the vision that a person looks like based on that description? Again, now I know some of you listening to this may be, iconoclast, and we don't need to go along the traditional ways, and you can still be a great professional even if you're wearing basketball gear, which I was. I've been a professional owning a business for almost 10 years. I just started wearing a suit 2+ years ago. So for that first 8 years, I was that guy. I was a professional running a business, but I was dressed like an athlete. So it's not that it's impossible, and I'm not knocking anybody who does it, but I am informing you that if you want to be perceived as a certain type of person, you need to look the part of what most people will perceive that person to be. When I look the part of a basketball player, people look at me and say, you look like a basketball player. And I didn't want people to say that anymore. So now I put on the uniform of a business person. And guess what people say to me now? You look like a business person. All right, so you could take that or you can leave it, but understand you've been told. All right, so the expectation of the position that you hold, people have a certain vision in their mind of what that looks like. And I mean literally what it looks like. What do you look like? Do you look like what you do? Do you look like what you do? Is the way that you present yourself representative of the expectation that you want other people to have of you? Think of who your ideal person is, your client, that is, your ideal client customer, and what they may be expecting of someone who holds the position of the person who's going to give them exactly what they need. Do you look like that? Do you represent that? Do you look like what they will be looking for? I told you all about this again in episode 2245, where I explained that people were looking at me like an athlete, and I changed my presentation. Same person, still work out every day, same physical body. All I did was put it in a different uniform, and all of a sudden people had a completely different impression. All right, that's not magic. I made adjustments so that people had a different idea of who I was when they saw me. Doesn't mean that a basketball player can't wear a suit, and it doesn't mean that a serious businessman can't wear basketball gear. As I've already told you, I was a businessman, and I was wearing basketball gear every single day. And I still had a business then, the same way that I have a business now. And as a basketball player, a couple times I put on suits. But remember, the whole concept here is about snap judgments. I told you this yesterday. Given the places that I go and the way that I live my life, I live in a highly foot traffic area. I'm outside all the time. I'm walking around all the time. I live in a condo. There's 1,000 people who live in this building. I'm in the elevator up and down. People are seeing me. I'm making an impression. There are impressions of me happening in the minds of other people over and over and over again every single day, hundreds of times a day. It matters to me how I'm presenting myself because a lot of people are seeing me. And I want to control the image that they're getting. And I control that image by the way that I decide to present myself. Now, your situation may be a little bit different for whatever reason. I'm also online. So even if I never left the house, those of you who are watching this on video, you see how I'm dressed right now. I have a suit on. I have on a suit and tie. I have the jacket on. Even if I don't leave the house, the things that I'm recording, I'm giving you a certain impression. Now, sometimes I will record and I'll be in the basketball gear. I have a t-shirt on and a snapback hat, and I'll record that way. Sometimes I will record that way because I can do that because the people in my audience understand all of these things that I'm explaining about myself. But the everyday person doesn't know these things. Everyday person who doesn't know me doesn't know this stuff. You may know it if you're in my audience, but everybody else doesn't know it. So that impression matters. So you need to think long and hard about what kind of image are you putting in the minds of other people. Remember that your brand starts with what you say and do, not with what other people say and do. Because they can't say and do anything about you without you helping them out with your presentation. All right, the whole question is, are you, based on your reputation, showing yourself the way you want people to see you? If the answer is no, you need to make changes. Point number 3. And this, oh, by the way, this applies to your online presentation as well, not just your physical in-person presentation, because more people are seeing you online these days than are seeing you in person. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to invest in your brand. Number 3, leverage the law of association, which I told you about already. This means associating with events, things, objects, outcomes, and anything else that reflects the way that you want to be seen in the marketplace. I was just talking to a guy a couple of weeks ago who was telling me I should join a local chamber of commerce down here in South Florida. And there are a couple of them that I've taken a look at. I told him that I'd never seen the value in joining the Chamber of Commerce. And another thing is that Chamber of Commerce often has their events in the evenings, like 7 to 8 o'clock at night. I'm usually getting in bed at 7 to 8 o'clock at night. I didn't say that to him, but I just told him I'd never seen value in it. And he stressed that it was worth it because the people who I could meet in the process of being a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and he was 100% correct. This is exactly what I mean by this point right here, is that you need to get in the room and you need to be in the spaces that allow you to associate your brand with other things that are representative of who and what you plan on being moving forward. If that means you need to spend some extra money to get around the right people, do it. I told you all a few months ago, there's a mastermind that I want to join. It's $50,000 a year. And they don't even stay open. You can't just go up to their website and punch in numbers and sign up. They close it and then they reopen it and they close it and reopen it. So you have to join it during the open window of it being available. But I want to join this $50,000 mastermind. Let me tell you why I want to join it. I do not want to join it because I feel like I'm going to get any information that is all of a sudden going to blow up my business and my success. That's not why I'm joining it. I'm joining it because I want to meet the other people who are investing $50,000 a year to be in this mastermind. Because those are the type of people with whom I want to associate my name and my brand. You understand? So when you're investing your finances, you're investing your money into things, you're not always investing for the information. By the way, information is relatively free or pretty close to it these days. None of you needs to spend a ton of money on just information. When you're investing money, what you're investing in is insights. You're investing in speed, you're investing in access, and you're investing in association. That's what you're actually investing in. I'm probably going to do a whole episode on that now that I said it. I know I've talked about this many times from many different angles, but I need to keep talking about it. And I'm going to write that down. So I said speed. I'm writing this down right now. So you want to see how I come up with topics for the show? I'm showing you. Insight. Third thing I said was access. And the fourth thing I said was association. And I may expand that into other things as well. But there you go. So that you know that topic is coming, those of you who listen to the show on a regular basis. So the associations, folks, you need to be associating with the right type of people. Remember a few years ago, I was at a business conference, and a friend of mine introduced me to another person who was at the event. She was at the event, I was at the event, this other guy was there. I didn't know the guy. She knew me, and she said, let me introduce you to this guy. She introduced me to the guy. She said, he's having a conference in a month. You know what? And she said to the guy right in front of me, she said, yo, you need to have Dre as a speaker at your event. And he looked at me and he smiled a little bit and said, let me think about it. That's a possibility. He and I exchanged information. I followed up with him maybe a week later, and I said to him, hey, I was following up with you about possibly being a speaker at your event because he had a business event coming up in a couple of weeks. And he said, well, you know what, my speaker roster is full, but you should still come to the event because the networking and the associations you can get by being around these other people is worth it. And he was, now whether he was right or wrong is up for debate, but the whole point is he had the right idea of even saying that, because what he didn't say to me was you need to be at this event because you're going to get more information, because he probably could size me up and understand I didn't really need the information coming from the stage. What he said was you want to network, i.e. associate with the other high level people who are going to be here, even though you're not going to speak. If you could associate with these other people, it'll be worth it for you. And that was the right pitch that he gave. The point being, folks, when you're investing in your brand, sometimes investing in your brand just means standing next to the right people. If you stand next to the right people, you will get knowledge, insights, and information that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten, and you will get reputation that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten. Are you hanging with the right type of person? People are going to start associating you with them just because you're hanging with them. If you hang with the wrong type of person, same thing. I heard an Andrew Tate video. I talked about Andrew Tate back in episode number. Any of you, most of you probably know who he is. If you want to know my thoughts or my opinion on Mr. Andrew Tate, I talked about it in episode 2699. But anyway, in the video I heard him talking, he was saying, if you hang around a bunch of guys who are ice cream experts and all they do is talk about ice cream, how to make it, how to sell it, how to market it, how to manufacture it, how to grow an ice cream business, if you just hung around those guys all day, eventually you would come to know a significant amount of stuff about ice cream. Why? Not because you're an ice cream addict or an ice cream enthusiast, but simply because you are associating with people who that's all they do. So if you hang around people who are all in on a certain thing, eventually you are going to grow in that area just because you're around them, even if you're not trying. And he was 100% correct. This is the same thing you need to do. This is the reason why I told you I want to join a $50,000 mastermind. And later on, I'm going to join a $100,000 mastermind. And in the future, hopefully I will find and I can join $1 million a year mastermind. Why do I want to do this? Because I want to hang, I don't even have to know what the mastermind is. I don't even have to know what it's supposedly about. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. I just want to hang around other people who are thinking that way and other people who are willing to make that type of investment, because I know just by being in the room with them and just talking to them on a regular basis, I'm going to make my money back. That's the point. And this is the mindset of someone who understands investing in themselves. And you need to have the same mindset. That's why I'm explaining it to you. It's not about me. I'm explaining this so that you understand it. Now, again, as I was telling you, you want to associate with people who are doing the thing that you want to do. So if you're going to do business in a town, for example, you should probably associate with other people who are doing business in that town, especially if you have a local business, like a brick and mortar type of business, like a coffee shop. You need to know the other business people in town, because that's going to be the lifeblood of whether you succeed or not. Now, my business is not about where I live. All right, most of the people who are members of my university, 98% of them do not live in South Florida. Like if I said, hey, get in your car and meet me in 30 minutes at this spot, most of the people who are members of my university could not geographically, it would be impossible for them to get here in 30 minutes. So it's not about where I live. Most of you don't live where I live. The point is still the same, that you want to be around the other people who are moving and shaking in any space that you're in. So this guy who told me to join the Chamber of Commerce, I don't need to do business in Miami. I could live in Miami and have all my business outside of the whole state of Florida and be good. But the concept of being around other business owners is still a solid concept. Okay. All these associations matter, folks, because other people will see them, you having them, and come to associate you with the things that you are associated with. And again, you can do this intentionally, on purpose, however, whenever, and however much you choose, which means you should be knowing it already. Recapping today's class, which is how to invest in your brand. Number one, make sure you are seen. All right, how you're seen, when you're seen, how often you're seen, and what people see you doing all matter. They are making an impression on people. Number two, look like what you want to be seen as. This one, I mean, literally. If someone tells you that the president or governor is showing up to your job or to some event, what do you expect them to look like? You have a vision in your mind for what that person looks like, right? Okay. You need to represent the vision that you want people to have of you and what you call yourself being about. Number three, leverage the law of association. This means associating with people, events, things, objects, and outcomes, anything else that reflects the way you want to be seen in the marketplace. I'll tell you one last story. Last week, was it this week? Might have been this week. I was coming home from the gym. And there's about a 5-10 minute walk from the gym to my home. And I'm walking home, and this SUV, which looked like it was an Uber, drives by, and there's this music blaring out of the stereos. This is about 7:15 in the morning. There's music blaring out of the stereos, and there's girls in the back seat. I could see them because the window was rolled down. The girls are like putting their feet up on the seats and twerking out of the back seat of the vehicle, twerking out of the window. If you don't know what twerking is, Google it, and you find out what it is. So these girls are twerking out of the window. Again, 7 o'clock in the morning. And it's obvious to me they're coming home from the club. So I get to my building, which is like, I was about 2 minutes away from my building. I get to my building, that same SUV is parked outside of my building. And these girls are getting out of the car. Apparently, they live in my building. They're my neighbors. Actually, I found out that they were because I get in an elevator. They get in the same elevator that I'm in, and these girls are. It was only 2 of them at this point. It was more, but it was only 2 of them getting in there now. They were clearly intoxicated. They were clearly still up from the previous night, and I don't know what they were intoxicated with, but they were clearly intoxicated. You could smell the intoxication on them. You could see it on them. And the reason that I'm bringing that up is this goes to my second point. What are you seen doing? All right, who are you seen with? Because I've seen some of these same girls in the daytime, they're walking their dogs and stuff, and they look completely different than what I saw that morning, which was the nighttime for them. What are you seen doing? Who are you seen with? The law of association, all of these things matter. And guess what? They make an impression to the point that I even remembered it now. All that said, folks, make sure you text me so you're in my community. My number's down below in the description. WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. All right, you're serious about making sure your reputation looks the way you want it to look. You are positioning yourself the way you need to be positioned to build your brand and your business and maximize ROI from it. WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre